morning and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. This morning I have the pleasure of preparing parents for back to school. And this morning I'm having that conversation with no other than Mrs. Yolanda Marselle, who is the president of the Signal Hill Secondary PTA. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us for this discussion, because I think it is so important during this time as we get ready to go back to school. You know, as we were discussing slightly before we came on, a lot of times the emphasis is placed on the children going back to school. But, you know, it's very rare that you are preparing parents for back to school. So talk to us a bit about that.
Well, that is something I've come to observe being in that arena, that we so focus on getting the children and talking to the children and telling the children. But if the parents are not ready, mentally ready for back to school, then they cannot do a good job of preparing the children to go back to school. And so that is what we want to look at today, getting the parents in the right frame of mind, focused in on, and so that they can get the children ready for school.
Right. And there are a lot of parents who are very good when it comes to getting ready for school. As soon as school closes, they begin buying books, buying uniforms, putting things in place, and getting ready for the new term. Sometimes they are, they are the ones who are very prepared, and they begin to transfer that mentality of preparedness to the kids. But unfortunately, sometimes even beyond, situations that parents can control, they are unable to be as ready. And, there are situations where you have parents, even to this last moment, still haven't gotten half of the things on the book list for the kids. And so that level of worriedness and uncertainty that comes with not being able to afford, and in some cases just having a last minute culture transfers to the kids. How do you think that affects how the children function when they go back out to school?
Well, all the how to put it, that depends on how they communicate with the children. I firmly believe in communication. We're not shouting at them, we're not talking down to them, we're not embarrassing them, we're talking with them and letting them know this is the situation, right? Because sometimes these children have friends who are able to help them. But the parents, don't tell nobody, and don't take nothing from nobody. And and if you are in a situation where you need help, then you have to know that whatever you're doing is for the betterment of the children. And so if you are getting help, take the help. You had to swallow your pride for your children. And so maybe because books are really expensive, and so maybe you cannot afford to go to the store. You are on Facebook, you're on WhatsApp, put out a message. Anyone have second-hand books to sell? Or anyone willing to part with their second-hand book to help a parent, if you don't want to put yourself out there like that. And when they call, you could say, well, I'm the parent and I really need some help because of this situation. So, we have to know, that the important focus is on the children.
Yeah. And one of the ideas that I had, and I'm, coming to feel like I'm really sorry that I didn't execute it, but I had an idea of like a book exchange, like a big market, like a big book exchange before school open. Maybe hopefully next year we could get it done, where parents are able to like just bring all your books that you had from the previous term, and you could kind of walk around the market and pick up and see, okay, kind of have an exchange of books and items and stuff like that. It's so important, even in the communication with the students, to also maybe communicate with teachers that, okay, miss, I didn't get all the books.
That's right.
Because you find that teachers accommodate.
Yes.
They might print out a couple pages from a book.
Correct.
And they will, give you until, So sometimes in the heat of the moment, you running around, your head hot, you don't really know how to approach the situation. But simple things like reaching out to whoever the form teacher or the teacher for the standard is and letting them know, well, I got X, Y, and Z books, but I still have a few books outstanding. Sometimes, not necessarily because they can't afford it, some of them just were last minute.
Yes.
And when they went to the bookstores, the
All
books
was
are
sold
finished.
out, yes.
Right? So they have to wait until the next order comes in. So just being open in your communication with the teachers to let them know, well, I have to wait until the next order comes in, or next month when I get paid at the end of September, and then I will be able to get all the textbook or so on. So, please bear with my child.
The government had a program where you can get textbook. It's called a loan. It used to be called a loan program, a book loan program. And it's sad to see that parents were getting those books. And they were having the use of it for their children. Their children were enjoying the use of it. But at the end of the year, you were supposed to turn it in. Listen, I have encountered parents trying to sell those books at bookstores. You know they're not yours. You know there are other children who need help just like your child got help. And at the end of the school term, they're trying to sell, the school name is stamped in the book, and they're trying to sell those books.
But I remember when I was in school that you couldn't get your books for the next form without bringing back your book from the previous year. So if you were going into Form 3 and you had to come and your parents signed for your books, you were not able to get the books unless you brought back all the books from the previous year.
It's still that way.
A particular condition.
It's still that way. But those said parents, they would stand up and they would lament, I don't know where the book went. I don't know what happened to the book. Whatever, when you took the book to the store to try to sell it. And I'm telling you, it is so sad. I remember I had to load up a parent one time. I said, why are you trying to sell the school books? I mean, it is so sad that you don't think about anyone. We go through a door and we just slam it shut.
Correct.
We don't think about someone else need to come through that door, and we don't want to help, and that is one of the reasons. And so the loan program, as far as I've come to understand, is no more, because other than they're not furnished with new books anymore in the schools, the government isn't furnishing new books anymore. The books that we have up there are outdated books.
Correct, yeah.
And on top of that, students were not bringing back books. So when the other set came in, there was no books to help them. The government even have the grant program in Ministry of Education where people could get help.
Let me interject here. And, this might be a bit controversial for some. But I believe that it's time that we move away from relying solely on physical books.
I believe
when you go to university, for instance, you are given access through your student ID to the online portal and the online library. So if a student is duly enrolled, you sit in class, just like during the pandemic, students were able to use their devices. We are moving towards a technological time. You are telling me that students can only come to class with a book?
No.
So there's no way that I could pull up my book on my laptop, on my iPad, and be following during class.
Yes, you can.
This is the place that we need to be heading to,
but
where we take the burden off of parents to have to be buying $12,000 in books, and half of the books are not even being used thoroughly.
Well, that part there, I am personally on a campaign. I do not like to hear parents say they spend a whole lot of money on books and did not. Or the teacher didn't use all the textbooks. There is no way, based on the time given to us, that a teacher can complete a textbook. So your child have the textbook that you spend money for. Why they're not using it?
Yeah, you have a responsibility.
And that is the problem we're having. That's why I agreed to do this. Parents need to understand that the teacher alone is not responsible for educating your child. They don't have enough time. The classroom is too much, right? They are even over the amount that's supposed to be in a classroom for one teacher to manage. And so they're trying. And as parents, we think, there's a teacher, there's a teacher. I don't know anything about that. Like you said, this is the time of technology and information. The University of YouTube is well furnished, and your child could go in and follow and look at the next topic at hand. The CSEC curriculum is on the CSEC page. You can go in there and know what the topics your child has to cover. Now, I only know these things because my eldest, when she was finished with school, she taught me. This is where she went and got these. She got the information from the teacher, and she went onto the website and looked at the topics needed to cover, and they started doing their research and whatever. Girl, I leave school since 19 whatever. So there is no way I understand this new maths and this
And
whatever.
listen, even us, the ones who graduate with the master's degree, when our nieces and nephews come with their standard 2 books, we ourselves do not know how to help them sometimes.
Yeah.
But we have to take the initiative to go a step further because we are now relearning.
Right.
So we're learning with them.
With them.
So we have to use the very tools that the young people sit on for 2 hours, 3 hours a day on the YouTube and begin to pull up these topics and see how we ourselves can learn with them to help them.
And you were talking earlier, you mentioned about having your books online. Again, my eldest daughter, she taught me. She took me online to download the textbooks. When my daughter was in 4th form, she had no textbooks. She went to school with a laptop. She did her notes on the laptop. Her books were on the laptop. She taught me. I didn't know about anything like that.
That is adequate preparation for college. Because as soon as you hit university, everyone sits in class with their laptops.
Yeah.
So we have to move away from demonizing devices in class.
But you see, it is it's really a distraction and so on in the class right now because it's not a standard use. So if it was that our devices were for the purpose of learning, if it is that our devices were for the purpose of sourcing information at school, then the children don't have enough time to play the fool with it. But when they have their device at school, very few teachers refer to the device, would say, and that is not their fault either, because there is not enough internet coverage in the school to cover all the classrooms. And if all the teachers are using the internet, that's the next story altogether, because then it starts fluctuating, it starts whatever. So, there's a whole lot of moving parts that we need to get in there. And so with that deficiency in the system, in that we know where we should be, but that's not where we are.
Correct.
And so rather than us complain about what is not, we have to develop the skill to work with what is, and that way everyone can benefit from that. I am one of those who do not believe that you have a complaint without a suggested solution, even though it may not be the one that works or it may not be fully developed, but at least give a suggestion. So we have an issue in the classroom. Let us come up with suggestion on how do we alleviate this issue and what can we put in place. And so if we start with some suggestions, ideas begin to flow, we come to a solution and not just walk around complaining. So I would like parents to take that also off the table. Do not send your children out to school starting to complain from the get-go. All this textbook are behind and only I'm even using most of it and all this money to if we send them out to school with that type of attitude, that's how they're going to be in school. I don't know, all this thing, and so they're not even in the mind frame to learn.
Right. And one more thing that I want to ask before we go off to the break. There's a situation where there are students who can afford and there are students who just cannot.
Correct.
And there are parents who can afford it, but their principles and their morals are different. They do not believe in investing exorbitant amounts of money in school shoes and school bag, they are the ones who say it's about what you're going to learn and it's not about what shoes you have on your foot
I'm
or on
one
your
of
back
those.
or on your backpack, right? So how do these parents communicate with children when the children are feeling immense pressure to wear the trending bag, the trending shoe, and then they feel inadequate because they are in school and they feel like they're not a part of the in crowd? How can parents support children through that when they themselves have a stance that I am not going to spend $2,000 on a book bag?
But again, communicating with the children. You would have raised your children that way. You cannot just wait for them to reach high school to decide that for them when you have been giving them everything all the time. You know, my children, I raise my children like that because I firmly believe in that. I am not going to spend $2,000 on a sneakers that's only going to last you probably, hopefully 6 months because you're growing. You know what I'm saying? But this has been my way all their life. I would not pay $200 for a pair of jeans when I could pay $40, the difference being the name that's on the $200 jeans.
Right.
So I raised my children. I always tell them how gorgeous they look. We get all excited about shopping for nice stuff. It's all about how the item I buy for you looks on you. I'm not going to buy any little old rag to put on you, but it's not going to be the expensive brand name one. And you're going to see how gorgeous you look. And we would go out and I would be telling them how gorgeous they're looking. And, you know, different ones would tell them how nice, you look so nice, what you're wearing. The nice thing is the compliment came first. So I'm like, so I would, when we go home, we will have a conversation about it. I say, you see, they couldn't even tell because you look so nice in it. So they were raised that way. So when they got to secondary school, it wasn't me now trying to indoctrinate them. It was they knew that whatever mommy got would always look nice, even though it wasn't the most expensive, but they got everything they needed.
All right, and we're going to take a break right here and we're going to continue the conversation, but it is so important for you guys to put your comments in the comment section and let us know how are you preparing your kids, or how did you prepare your kids when it was your time, and what are some tips and tricks that you have that you can share with parents as we all navigate this time of going back to school. See you soon right after this. Now, we have been chatting with Miss Yolanda Marselle, and she is the president of the Signal Hills Secondary School PTA Association. And so we have been talking about preparing parents for that back to school. Usually you hear the preparation of the kids, but it's so important for us to get parents in that right mind frame for going back. And what do you think is an important, mental place for parents to be in even as school reopens?
It's understanding what your responsibilities are while the child is in school. It's understanding that you're not dropping your children off to daycare. That is so important. The daycare is not responsible for potty training. It's not responsible for teaching your children how to talk. You're sending your children to school, especially where I'm in the secondary school, right? So this is at a new level now. You have to help your child to follow the rules. So it means that you have to mentally be in the place where you know what the rules are. You understand what is required of your child, and that you are now ready to partner with the teachers to bring about a successful learning environment and experience for your child. So that is one of the most important things in preparing our minds as parents, that you're not going to just drop your child off to school and then the next time the teachers see you is when the child ready to graduate, or when you're forced to come in to do the report. I have had parents complain because they have to come in with the child to meet the teachers to collect the report. But that system had been put in place because the teachers don't see the parents at all. So the thing about it is to be able to get to update the parent, to communicate with the parent. This system is in place where you and the child come to collect the report. You discuss with the teacher about the progress of your child, the performance of your child, and so on. So you are now able to continue working with your child. All of that, we have to get in the mindset that, look, I am a participator in the education of my child. So as school is about to open, it's not we're sticking them in front of the TV or we're sticking them in front of a device and let the device and the TV babysit them. It is about you being actively, now what topics did you all cover in school today? Even if Miss didn't give homework, even if Sir didn't say I'm looking for this tomorrow, you as a parent, what did you all cover in school today? I am real good at faking. My children would be talking to me about stuff, and I could say that now because all of them out of that school and whatever, only the last one finishing up a 6. But they would be talking to me about a topic, and I'm listening. And I'm like, I don't understand. Explain it to me. I really don't know what they're talking about, eh? And my measurement is, if you could explain it to me that I understand, then you know what you're talking about. So like you were saying earlier, we learn along with the children. And so the topics they are doing, they did science and all of that. That wasn't my stuff in school, you know. So English and stuff, poetry and those things, that's where my major was.
Right.
So they're now to teach me. And if I could understand what you're saying, then I know you understand what you're saying. And so I will say, but I didn't get that. You sure this is how it go? And they will explain and so on. So they're convinced that I know what they're supposed to know. Not a clue.
Right,
But I'm
understood.
involved and they have to explain. I want to see, let me see the book. You want to try 2 of these for me before you go to bed, and these kinds of stuff. Turn off the TV now, it's almost time for bed. So parents,
And even when I often advise parents, we tend to demonize the devices, but it has to do, it's not necessarily if they are using it, it's what they are doing on it.
That's right.
Because you think, okay, now it's time for your homework, take off the computer, take off the TV. But that same TV, even while they are doing their homework, could be used to go on YouTube, and you have a tutor on YouTube showing them exactly how to work through the sum or the topic.
And if you have a smart TV, it's even better because then whatever is on the device is on the screen. So you as the parent, every now and then you pass and look in, you are seeing what they're doing.
Right.
You know?
And, even when it comes to a bit more complex topics, scientific topics, the atomic structures and all of these things, they have so many animated series within 5 minutes.
Yes.
They sit and they understand.
Let me share experience with you. My son was doing physics for CSEC, and he had the project to do the SBA. Mommy had no clue, but he is self-taught. So he will go and research, but for the life of him, he could not get this concept. And I just went in and sat with him. I said, you get it yet? No, Mommy. I said, bring up a video for me. He brought up one video. I still didn't understand. I said, you get it yet? He said, no. I said, bring up another one. But I'm sitting with him now. And then by the time he brought up the third one, I said, you get it now? He said, I think so. But by the third one, I got it too. So now we are discussing what it's supposed to be. And he's like, oh, he got it. Let me tell you, with all the struggle and the fight, my son got a 1 with distinction in physics. All I did was go and sit with him. The struggle was so much for him. He was just glad for the company, and he had to just explain to me, and we talk about it. And this child did his SBA. So I'm saying to parents, do not say that you don't know. Come on.
And some parents would say, okay, everything that you are saying there is something that I want to do. It's the ideal situation. But because of my circumstances, whether it be my emotional disposition where I'm not at the place where I want to be, so I don't have the motivation to sit and have those conversations with my kids or give them the type of support that they need, or because of my financial situation, while they are doing their homework, I'm grinding, I'm hustling, I can't provide that level of support. What type of advice do you have for those parents? What type of support um, is in place for them? Because I immediately think, okay, if my child is in Form 4 or Form 5 and I cannot provide that level of support, you begin to have those conversations with other parents
Yes.
who can make their home, I remember when I was doing exam day, we all used to go to one person's home and we would sit in their gallery and we there and we all studying and stuff. So sometimes you have to, become a partner with other parents.
I
We
get.
within the classroom, find out who are the parents who are able to support their kids and see if they are willing to facilitate
No,
your
you
kid
don't have to go in
maybe on
anybody's
weekends
house.
or well you
No,
see
we don't have to go in anybody's house. These devices.
yeah
Now your video chat. And I saw my son at sixth form level doing it. His computer screen is up, all of them on the screen, and they're in their books and they're talking to one another because mommy don't know. So they're talking to one another. And if you as a parent is it doesn't matter what situation you are. You have an emotional deficit, financial deficit, it doesn't matter where you are. You have to be a parent. You have your own personal time to cry. Every parent know about that. When they go into bed and they whatever, you crawl into your space or you go outside in the yard because everybody might be in one room. You go outside in the yard and you find a corner and you let it out. You go in the shower and you get it out and you suck it back in and you go and face your children. Every one of us, whether you're a single parent, sometimes you're married, but the struggle is real. And you have to get that parent time. But when it comes to the children, you have to shift gears and you have to know, all right, my job is to help my child move towards a better situation than I'm in right now. And we really need to do that because we don't want to impart the misery and the frustration onto the child because children are very sensitive and very aware. So they come to school now, home is frustrated, and those are the children that act out at school because they need to pong on somebody, and so they start fights, and they're mean with their words, and they're nasty and disrespectful because the frustration is built up inside. They're feeling the stress. Mommy home, reminding them how their father not bringing nothing for her to buy for them, how hard the work is, how wicked the boss is, how everything you're offloading on these children, and so they come to school and they act it out. So it's so important that parents get into that mental place to understand my job is to protect my child. Let me, the adult, deal with whatever. And the children who have to be the adult in the home, they come to school and they want to boss up everybody and mother everybody and tell everybody what to do because that's what they have to do at home. They are the parents at home. So I'm really trying to talk to parents this morning about getting themselves ready mentally to send these children back to school and be a parent to them while they're at school.
And unfortunately we have to wrap up the discussion, but is there anything you want to ensure that parents remember, or even the persons who are not parents who know someone who has a kid going back to school, that they can also relay that message?
It takes a village. It still does. Even though we seem to be real selfish at this time, it takes a village. Reach out to someone for help. Your teachers are not your enemy. They are partners with you in educating your child and preparing them for the rest of the world. Communicate with them. They would love to hear from you. Our school have a lot of programs in place to help parents, even outside of school, right? So I am just saying that, please communicate with the teachers, be a part of the PTA. We are all stakeholders and we'll work together for a successful human being in our community.
All right. Thank you so much, Miss Marselle.
Nice meeting you.
And I just want to let parents know that if there is indeed any financial struggles that have prohibited you from being able to provide the adequate tools that your child needs to go back to school, please contact the Division of Education at the Student Support Unit and find out how they can best assist you in assisting your kids. Let's have a break and we'll be back right after this.